All right, I just wanted to welcome everyone. We had a earlier group that came. We had about 24 people, and we're glad to see you come and join us this evening. I'm Jane Cahill-Wolfgram, the village president. In this process of looking at and planning for redevelopment is one that's exciting. We have not come up with a plan yet. We've not come up with many theories, but we want to talk to the community and find out what the community is wanting and visualizing for our community. This is truly going to be a ground up process. We have an old development plan that was done in '93. And this is also part of our comprehensive plan. But this process is, I think, exciting because we're truly going to be working with our residents to develop a plan. So Mark Roffers is going to take you through the process tonight and give you a bunch of information that I think will answer some questions and hopefully be helpful to you. So Mark.
Thank you, Jane. I was reminded earlier that as a presenter, I'm allowed to take off my mask so you can see what I look like. And thanks a lot. But I was reminded my son, who's a first grader, wears a mask to school, and he comes home and he's sitting and doing whatever with his Switch, and he's still got his mask on. It's dripping with snot or whatever was in it. But so I'm falling into that trap too, and I don't even know it's on anymore. Welcome. My name again is Mark Roffers. I've been working with the village on a variety of planning projects for the past 15 or 16 years, including a couple of plan updates for the village's comprehensive plan. And we have a little presentation to walk through here. We have other people in the room. You met Jane already. We've got Brandy Cooper running the deck. Her day job is zoning administrator. Judd Blau, the director of public services, and Nick Johnson, who works with me and is helping with the planning effort too. And we got a trustee and a plan commissioner here in the room as well. So thank you all for coming. So my next question is, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about Stacy. She helped you get signed in, and thanks very much, as running the show here behind the scenes. Thank you very much. So my first question, I guess, to you is kind of, who are you? And we have a smaller crowd here. We had, I think Jane said 24 people at our first session, but if you could, by a show of hands, tell me if you are a resident of our downtown area, and that's why you came to the meeting here tonight. Do you live around here? Not so much. Close. And then do any of you own a business in the downtown area, immediate area? Great. Thank you very much. We had a lot of downtown residents and a lot of downtown business owners at our first meeting. Just about everyone was in those categories. So it's nice to get a broader representation here in the second meeting too. As Jane mentioned, we really have no plan to share tonight. I do have a plan that's kind of a lie, but it's a 12-year-old plan, and that's why we're here tonight to update it. So we really need your help in guiding the future for the village. We can move to that. So the presentation here, the purpose is to try to share with you what we're doing, to give you a primer on long-range planning. I do it too many hours of too many days, but I appreciate that it's not necessarily your forte. I want to describe and give you a definition of redevelopment planning and redevelopment itself, because it can be misunderstood. And then provide opportunity here in our small group setting to have you ask me questions and provide as many answers as possible. And we have other resources that I'll point you to as well. But the main point here is to get your input and feedback. Some of you have already started to do that. I know if you got here a little bit earlier, and we'll go through, or I will go through the opportunities tonight in the presentation. So what is the purpose of this effort? Well, broadly speaking, it's intended to engage the community in a coordinated planning effort to update two very closely interrelated plans that the village has. The first is the village's comprehensive plan, and I'll describe what that is. It's a community-wide plan. And the second is a redevelopment plan for the downtown area, which was last prepared in 1993 is woefully out of date, and that's really what we're here to focus on here tonight. More specifically, the comprehensive plan is a long-range 20-year guide for the future development of the village. It guides where and what types of growth, development, and preservation the village endeavors to see over the next 20 years or so. So where you see new roads built, new trails constructed, other things that are happening in the community, it's usually in accordance with that comprehensive plan where the plan covers that topical area. And it also provides some guidance and guidelines as to what a new development and redeveloped sites should look like when we see that happening. A redevelopment plan is more specific than that. Again, we're working on both of these kind of side by side. First off, it's directed by the village board of trustees, and by the Community Development Authority, which has as its members a couple board members, but also community members, and their purpose and function is to encourage redevelopment and encourage housing development within the community. And they have been charged as one of their initial assignments to guide this redevelopment planning process. The redevelopment plan guides the revitalization of parts of the village that were developed a long time ago, and in certain cases would benefit from some change. What type of change? That's what we're here to talk about. Our redevelopment plan will identify, and we've begun to identify different redevelopment planning areas. We're focused here on one of those, the biggest one in the downtown area, but we have a couple of other areas of focus as well. One is east on Holum towards Highway 51, and the other one is south on Main Street towards the DeForest Plaza area. So, but we're really here to talk about the downtown, and specifically the area that you all got a notice for or seen and will show up on screen. Within each of the areas that we, and by we, I mean the Community Development Authority and the Village Board, identify as a redevelopment project area, there'll be a concept plan that'll share ideas for different types of land uses, building sizes, and then how do we achieve redevelopment within those areas through funding and other techniques to make things happen. And I was reminded when I was putting together this presentation that that 1993 plan was successful, and we saw a lot of change result from that, but it's incremental change over time. The location of the library, the location of DeForest Town Square, where Norsky Nook was a collection of houses and businesses and open space, 20 years ago, not terribly long ago, and has changed substantially. So the idea with the redevelopment plan is to provide a refresh on where areas might be appropriate for the next 20 years. And I'd encourage you, you've got a copy of this questions and responses form if you picked it up. There's a lot more information on redevelopment planning within that particular document. So I've used the term redevelopment, 10, 15 times here in the presentation, and I think it's probably time to define the term. So there is no one size fits all definition for redevelopment. It could mean a number of things, even a number of things on just one site. So it could mean expanding, rehabbing, or improving the appearance of existing buildings and sites that are already in our downtown area, and that could use a refresh, or could use a boost to increase activity or their viability in the marketplace. It could also mean replacing existing buildings with new construction, new buildings either in a similar land use to the older buildings or some new and different use to add to the vitality of the downtown area. And it could mean filling in some sites that were passed over for whatever reason over time, and could be green space now or parking lot or some other non-building use. So what that means for a particular property really depends on what the property owner is interested in doing with it. Redevelopment is, and development in general, is a property owner driven process. The Community Development Authority and our planning effort is intended to help facilitate those private property decisions and provide a framework through this planning process. So, you know, some of you, if you did get the notice, and you'll see up on screen our downtown study area, that does not mean every part of that area will be redeveloped in any definition. It just means that, that's an area of opportunity and an area that we want to make sure that people that are nearby are aware of what may happen as we go forward and have a part in forming that. So why redevelopment? So, you know, question emerges is, why are you doing this? You know, what's the point? Consistently, an interest in more shopping and restaurants has been voiced by the community. Downtown is a good spot for that. Redevelopment can support high quality housing and attractive neighborhoods. We have a lot of services here in the downtown areas, educational services, community services. Housing might be a good reason to, or a good opportunity to grow from those services. Increasing activity in the downtown area, more things for people to do. If you go to a particular restaurant, you might be able to do 1 or 2 additional things in the downtown before you leave. So growing activity is a big part of why redevelopment, to enhance quality of life and other things. Growing the tax base. Relatively speaking, the downtown area of DeForest has relatively low tax base per acre. So we can create additional opportunities where we already have existing roads, utilities, community services in place without having to build fresh and new. Relatedly, it guides investments to where people are already spending time and living. And so we can start to build some synergy with folks that visit the splash pad and may be able to buy an ice cream cone somewhere after they're frolicking in the water for a while. This gets a little bit more out there, but by investing in redevelopment and creating opportunity within the village for people to live, shop, play, we preserve more land outside of the village or at the edge of the village where, you know, not as much land needs to be used for that type of development. So it's a growth management technique. The other reasons why we think about redevelopment is it's a popular idea. We did a survey as part of our planning update and learned that downtown revitalization is really the top economic development desire of the folks that responded to that survey. You see the chart here that 85% either agreed or strongly agreed that DeForest should encourage revitalization of its downtown area. And that we've heard through our additional workshops that are more broad and community-wide, that people keep coming back to that idea and what can we do to zero in on the downtown, and that's really why you're here tonight. And the last set of reasons for why redevelopment is it's worked. We've seen great success. It takes a while. It takes a lot of hard work, but we've got projects like the ones listed here on screen and others. I had a gentleman who developed an office building downtown. It's not on this list. I apologize to him later, but there's a lot of other things that have happened as a result of the 1993 redevelopment plan that, you know, we want to know what's next, and this planning effort is a part of figuring that out. I mentioned the past efforts, and what I haven't mentioned yet is this downtown redevelopment concept. As part of a planning effort in the late 2000s, the village put together a concept plan for revitalization of downtown. It kind of grew from the 1993 redevelopment plan, but dealt with it on a more general level. It got tweaked a little bit and folded into the current village-wide comprehensive plan in 2015. It suggested areas for potential future redevelopment, you know, one of those 3 things that I had listed, and other areas for potential enhancement in maybe facade improvements or things like that. It needs a redo for a few different reasons. First, it doesn't go all the way to pushing all the buttons to become a legal redevelopment plan, which enables the CDA to get more involved in encouraging development. It also didn't cover a key area that we now know is available for future development, the Holum Education Center site on Holum Street, about 8 acres of land that at the end of this school year will be 100% surplus property for the school district. The school district desires to sell that. So it's a huge opportunity for us in the community to help influence what types of land uses may be appropriate in the next generation for that site. So far, we don't have any plan. The village doesn't have any plan for that property, but it's very timely to get one. And, you know, my guess is if I asked for a show of hands to how many of you have ever seen this map before, I'd see maybe 1 or 2 hands being raised. So there we go, we got 1. But so we need more discussion and community discussion and thought. And we've got a whole new crop of people. Back in 2009, the village had 3,000 fewer people than it has today. So that's all the reasons why we're revisiting that. We'll have a chance for you to look at this more closely. Starts where we're standing and heads north, west, and east, but not south. Most of the land to the south has already been redeveloped or configured in its kind of future use already. It overlaps a little bit with our prior planning areas, but not always. It extends, of course, east to the Home Education Center. That's the finger you see and that Brandy's got highlighted there. This area is subject to change before it's finally set. The CDA and the village board do have to set a redevelopment area to make the wheels go in motion. We have to figure out what the exact boundaries of that may be. There will not be change everywhere in this area. It's an area of interest for the village and certainly probably an area of interest to the folks that live or do business within that area. And the main point of this whole effort is to thank those that have made an investment in the downtown area, either by living here or by doing business, and encourage them to be part of the future and hopefully create more opportunity for them going forward. We don't have a plan. We had a question at the end of the first session. Okay, well, I heard all that, but what really is the plan for the Home Education Center? And Scouts honor, we don't have a plan for the Home Education Center. That's why we're here tonight. So you're really part of that solution. Our objectives for tonight's open house, I've reiterated this already. Let's get started, get your questions answered, share your ideas, and participate in the exercises that I'm going to describe right now, and some of you have already kind of dove into. So at our first exercise is relatively straightforward. You might have done something similar to this for your business or maybe at church at one point in time, but it's to identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the downtown area. We're asking you to pull Post-it notes out, write one strength or weakness per Post-it note. We've got them color-coded in the back of the room. I see someone did a switcheroo on the order of so it doesn't say SWOTs anymore. It says ATSWA, something like that. But we'll adapt. And then you just put your notes on the wall. So the notes you see up there right now are from the previous batch of folks that participated, and we'd love for you to populate that as well. The second exercise is a visual preference exercise, and I saw a couple of you doing that before we got started here today. Out in the lobby, Nick will be at a station to guide you through this exercise where we'll have 30 different photographs, images that will appear at 20-second intervals. Nearly all of them are, well, none of them are in DeForest downtown today. Nearly all of them are from outside of the community, mostly from downtown areas within the radius of DeForest by 20, 30 miles. But these are uses that could be in the future DeForest. So we're asking you to kind of grade them on an academic sort of grading scale on a few different criteria: the design, the density or scale of the use, how big, how appropriate you think the size is for DeForest downtown, and what the land use, what the building is being used for, and how appropriate you think having more of that type of use or that type of use for the first time in the downtown may be. And then there's a spot for comments and reactions, and I'm sure you'll have, some reactions to some of the photos. And then just make sure that you hand in the photos. I think Nick's instructed to tackle people if they walk away with their completed form, but we definitely want to get that input from you. So the E, yeah. So I explained, I was curious, and I said, well, did happen to E as I was typing this in. And one, so I did, the internet research, which is always very dangerous. And one theory was that there were E grades. Grades started like in the 1870s or something like that. And there was an E up until like the 1930s, but people got it confused with excellent or exceeds expectations. And so for those reasons, they dumped it. And F is obviously, the connotation F equals fail. So, and fantastic, there you go. So maybe the F grade is going to go by the wayside too, and we'll have to dig deeper into the alphabet. But anyway, I found that interesting. But so with that, that's the second station. We're not, you can visit them in order if you want. We're a small enough group, but you just go to where you want to go when you want to go there. The third one is mapping exercise. So this is an opportunity to get specific with us. If you have an idea for a particular type of land use you'd like to see in the village on a particular site, or a set of buildings or area you really think could use some TLC, this is your opportunity to share those with us. I'll be in that room. We would encourage you to move those buildings around on the table. We've got color coding here. I won't go through it here at the table, but or at the presentation, but at the table you'll see this same key for you to refer to. And then what I generally do is, if you're all there and you generally nod and agree, we'll work on it together. But if you want to do this independently, I'll allow a group to do that, take a couple pictures of it, and then sweep the board and then allow the next group to share their ideas. There's also an opportunity to kind of critique or talk about that old redevelopment plan, the one that had the map up on screen. And then the final thing is you should have in your hands a comment form. This has a few questions, the ones I have here up on screen, that may overlap a little bit with this, but we in particular want to know who might be interested in talking more about the downtown, whether it's a business owner or property owner, or someone else in the community that really has a particular interest in helping us out. And so with that, just talk about finally the next steps after today. If you'd like to talk further, I failed to mention Michelle Laurie here is the Community Development Director. She's not here in the room tonight. She was unable to make it, but she is the main point of contact for community development issues and redevelopment issues for the village. And her contact information is on screen, and you'll see it on, I think it's on one of the forums as well. So if you're interested and you want to talk further, please reach out to her. We're going to try to build other opportunities for folks who couldn't come today to participate online. I think at least portions of some of these exercises will work over the internet. If you provided your email address to us, we'll get you the results so you can see how your input compared to other people's. We'll try to come up with a nifty way to sum up the results of the mapping exercise and certainly the visual preference exercise. And then we'll share all the findings of this work with other conversations we're having with the CDA, the Community Development Authority, at their February meeting. The idea being that after that, we'll move to the plan making stage where we'll begin to prepare a concept redevelopment plan for the downtown area to replace that old plan and to provide some ideas and insights and maybe some inspiring images for how different sites could change as we look forward to the next 20 years. So with that, I'm going to close the presentation and encourage and invite questions that I hope I can answer tonight. Some of the answers are also available in that Q&A document that you have in your hand, and you can refer to that as well. Thank you for coming. What questions do you have?
From the last group that you might want to address is what, if we're talking about redevelopment, why didn't we include pick and save area? You maybe could.
Sure. The Community Development Authority has worked through a number of potential redevelopment sites and areas in the village. I think we started with 11 or 12 different potential sites. This is definitely one of them and the biggest one. We've gone through a process over the last few months to sift and winnow down to a manageable number where we see the greatest opportunity for change and the greatest interest in change. Again, this is one of those. The two others that have bubbled to the top. One of them is the Carroll Farm on the east edge of Holm Street at Northtown Road, south of the Quick Trip. That could describe just about anywhere. But south of the Quick Trip at, there we go, she's got it here up on screen. So a collection of old farm buildings, some vacant land, some of which was flooded pretty significantly a few Marches ago. So we've got some challenges there as well, but that's a priority area. And then the other one of the three that has bubbled to the top is, got to find a catchy name for it, but it's the area east of where South Street and Main Street intersect, and includes a vacant piece of property, which also has some water issues, a common theme, and it has been the subject of development proposals before the Planning and Zoning Commission over the last 5 years that have been controversial. It includes the old National Bank building, and it includes the northern of the two larger commercial buildings on that property and that building and site compared to the one to the south is in need of some love. And so that's our third redevelopment area. So we are focusing on that as part of our process. If you'd like to comment on any of those, we know we love your comments tonight, but our focus is on the area in gold that I had on the previous screen. They will. And honestly, that's not to say that those are the only pieces of land that may redevelop over the next 20 years, but it's the areas where we see the greatest opportunity and maybe the greatest chance for the village and its community development authority to nudge things forward a little bit. Thank you. Other questions? Yes. Yeah. This is where I put up the slide that says I have no proposal. You know, we'd like. Downtown area? Okay, so the idea has been in the village's plans for some time is to better knit the area around North and Main Street to the area that we're standing in right now, and to provide a greater opportunity to consider that part of the downtown area. Right now, I would imagine that very few people park and maybe go to a restaurant downtown and then say, I'm gonna go walk up and do X or Y where your business is. It's not terribly friendly. It's a bit of a distance. You don't have things to do in between. And so the idea with the planning effort is to figure out, well, how can we goose up that area with new opportunity in a way that increases activity there and here and tries to link the two together better. Those kind of sites are interesting to me because they have a bit of a industrial flair. And so where you see, you know, conversion for some uses like a brewery, those kind of sites often pop up. There's one on the south side of Madison that feels a lot like that area. So, you know, there could be opportunities there that are different than today. But that, you know, are compatible with the surrounding uses still as well. Yes, question. Yeah, I'll repeat the question, especially on Zoom. Is there data or reasoning to explain why DeForest has maybe struggled relative to other areas to attract or retain a retail base? There's some theories on that. One of the theories is you've got some pretty heavy hitters around you. Sun Prairie, East Town area of Madison are two reasons. The other thing that we have is a significant commuting population. So a lot of folks live here, work in Madison, do their shopping or fun there, and then come back home. That's particularly challenging for the downtown area because a lot of our residential growth in Conservancy Place, Savannah Brooks, you almost never have to come here up to the downtown unless you have kids that maybe go to school here. So geographically, kind of the commuting patterns make it more challenging for DeForest. We don't have in the downtown area quite the collection of historic buildings as a Wanakee does or a Sun Prairie does to kind of build around. So that's been a little challenge for us here. And the final thing that I'll mention is we've got a growing trend of basically the Amazon culture, where for retail goods in particular, the online shopping grew a lot before March of 2020 and has exploded since then and the pandemic. And so there's a smaller pool of commercial enterprises that you can draw from. It's hard to sell shoes anymore. Maybe shoes are not the greatest example, but it's hard to sell clothing and other things in a bricks and mortar store. Yeah. Kind of a brand helps. I work with New Glarus. New Glarus has a brand, right? Mount Horeb has a brand. Those things are good for, places. Another ingredient of success is a significant population. If we're talking about a downtown area, a significant population that can walk to businesses and patronize it. So, have a critical mass, a critical density of folks. So some of the places that have had success in downtown redevelopment have had it driven by housing redevelopment, and that the businesses tend to come after when people kind of wonder, well, where am I going to get coffee? So those are two ingredients. Another ingredient is a government structure that encourages redevelopment. It costs a lot more money to knock down a building, maybe clean contaminated soil, assemble small properties into one viable site than it does to get a green field site at the edge of town. And so municipalities who are successful often get involved and help close that gap through incentives to make that type of development happen. Surprisingly, it's not so much about having direct highway access or having a state highway run through the downtown. Some successful downtowns have it, but others like Mount Horeb, they specifically took 151 out of the downtown area, and that I would argue helped that downtown more than hurt it. So I don't think it's the transportation thing that is a challenge for DeForest. I think it's the settlement patterns and the fact that the housing, growth has not been close by, and for many people don't have to come here to do your thing. Great questions. Thank you very much for them. Other questions that we can answer before we set you loose on the exercises to the extent you haven't participated on them yet. And I've seen we got one or two people that have come in late. We will have these different stations, 1, 2, 3, 4 staffed, so we can explain what to do at each one of them. They're relatively straightforward, but to the extent you need support, we'll be there for you. Any other questions, though? Thanks all for taking time tonight. We greatly appreciate you coming out.